call the meeting to order at 7:05. If everyone will please stand for the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everyone. Do the roll call. Mayor Mosier is present. Trustee Crawford.
Here.
Trustee Smith.
Here.
Trustee Pritchard.
Here.
Trustee Bosford.
Here.
Treasurer Doucette. Here. DPW Superintendent Wolf.
Here.
Attorney France.
Present.
Clerk LeClaire. Here. And the one that would be absent is CEO
Rucker.
Yes. All right. See here. We'll go right to Jake.
I appreciate you guys giving me a moment of your time tonight. I just wanted to update the board. We had gotten the bid package for the meter replacement project together. We had it ready to go last month, and we just had asked that you guys could pass the resolutions to get it out to bid, and the sooner we do that, it's just it's not wasted time that we could use as contingency at the end of the project. So anyhow, we have the bid package ready to go. It's approved by the funding agency and the local health department. This contract is contract number 1, and it's the placement of supply meters at all the residential and commercial customers in the village. Basically, how the process will go from here is we have this bid packet ready. It would be advertised, legally advertised for bids, which means posting it on the local bulletin board, the clerk's office, and going in the local paper. And then we also typically post it online to get it out there to the contractors that would be interested in bidding this project. So if the board passed a resolution tonight to advertise for bids, we would coordinate with Rose tomorrow to get it over to the newspaper. It takes 2 days. It would publish on the 7th, which is Thursday. And then we'd have a 3-week bid period is what we're proposing. That's the minimum that the funding agency has requested that we have it on the street, which would put us at, I believe, April 28th. So there's a little more than a week before what I assume would be your May regular meeting. But that would give us time. We would review the bids, check them for math and everything, and make a recommendation letter to the board available for your May meeting. And at which point, the process is the board can then review the bids, review our recommendation, and if they concur and there's no issues, they can issue a notice of award at that point. Tell the contractor that they've been awarded the contract and they need to get bonding in place for the project, give us proofs of insurance, all that, and they'll sign. They have, from the notice of award, they have 15 days to get us those documents and sign the agreement, which is the contract. At that point, the village can sign the contract and issue what's called a notice to proceed, and it tells the contractor, get started on the project, here's your time frame that you have to complete the work in, and the clock starts here, and it sets the formal time frame for them to complete the work. We've given them the contract documents 90 days to be substantially complete, which is 95% of the way done, and then there's another 30 days for them to wrap up the last issues if there are any at that point. But that's a very quick summary. Are there any questions that the board has about this bidding process?
That's just on the meters, right? That doesn't have anything to do with the rehab.
That doesn't have anything to do with the rehab at the Kelly Summit Springs. This is just meters in the on all the customers throughout the distribution system here in the village, or also along the line coming to the village. Okay, I was just going to say that there's a couple meters that are part of phase 1 of the project that are what we call mainline meters. So that's out at the meter pit by Cobo Well, where the 2 springs come together, and up at the tank. And we were handling those separately because they're a different nature of work from the type of contract that we get in this work. But I can address that in next week's board meeting if I didn't want to take too much of your time tonight. But or I could go over anything you'd like to know about tonight as well. But at this point, in order to bid this job, what we need is a resolution from the board setting a bid opening date and resolving to advertise it for bids.
install?
This bid includes both procurement of the meters and installing them.
Right.
So it's having, one bid in, so likely there'll be either a meter manufacturer or rep that is the bidder, or an installer contractor, which would be basically a plumbing contractor. One or the other would submit a bid, or we may see bids from both. But this way it gets us a better range of bidders than if we just went to the meter companies. And, the village went through an extensive process, and they reviewed the product lines available from basically most all of the mainline reputable meter companies on their selling meters here in New York, and they, looking at the features, weighted down to, we have basically this spec for the funding agency's procurement policies needed to make sure that there were multiple meters that were acceptable to meet the spec. And so we have it down, there's at least 2 companies that can bid this spec for a replacement meter. And it's a brass body, mechanical, standard cold water meter. And it met all the health department standards.
So the open date would be when?
We're proposing May 28th, excuse me, April 28th, that's 3 weeks from when it would go in the newspaper, which would be this Thursday. And as far as the bid opening, any board members are welcome to attend. In the past we've done it, we haven't necessarily, have rarely had the full board there. The clerk usually makes sure she attends. And the way that the package is put together, the bids are due to the village hall here by a certain time, and then we set the bid opening time, it's local time, so after whatever we set it at 11 o'clock in the morning, no further bids will be received. We open the bids and we'll check. The bid opening is a very quick process. It's just checking to make sure that they have their bid bond, properly filled out bid form, a certificate of non-collusion. And then we go back and check all the math. The way this is set up as a unit price bid, so we actually have on the bid form, I think the exact number we came up with, but it's on the order of like a dozen different bid items because of the different pieces of the drive-by reading system, and then the supply of the meters, install the meters. We added bid items if they have to install an extra valve at the house. We wanted that to be a standalone item, so we only did it when we needed it, things like that. And so what we do is we put in an estimated quantity. So we might say, supply residential meters. We have 485 estimated meters we need. But that's an estimated quantity, so if we need a couple more or a couple less, if services get connected or disconnected between now and when they're doing the work, they give you a price per meter, and you only buy as many as you need.
Okay.
And if you need a few more, you buy as many as you need. And as far as installs, you only pay for as many as they actually do. And so you estimate the quantities, but typically, just so the board fully understands this, then at the end of the project, there'll be what they call a reconciliation change order, where you just adjust the quantities to what was actually needed. And so your bid price that you see, a big lump sum bid price, may move slightly at the end of the job if you didn't use all of the quantities we had. For instance, for commercial meters, there was some question about the size that we would need at a couple of the services and whether we can fit it in the plumbing that's there. So what we have is several different size meters, and we have a quantity of one for each of them. So we get a price up front for what the meter costs, but then we'll actually purchase the one we need during construction.
Okay.
So we won't actually purchase every single one of the commercial meters that's quantified in there.
So we have to make the resolution for the meter bid to be closed by 4/28, or to be opened at 4/28. Is there a specific time you want?
For the advertising for bids here, and we have it set up for 11:45 prevailing time on Thursday, April 28th, 2016.
Close at 11? Close at 11 then?
No, close at 11:45. Yeah, if there's any decision the board wants to change that, when I get this coordinated with Rose tomorrow to send to the paper, that's when we want to nail it down. But so if you guys want us to set it at a different time, I can. That Rose works for you, 11:45 on a Thursday.
As far as the installation, how's that handled? Does it depend on who gets the bid and who?
Yeah, and we've seen it done several different ways, but the way that this package is set up is that we're bidding it out for a contractor to do the work. So there's a whole process where they have to contact the homeowners in certain ways, a certain number of times to try to schedule it. And so they'll go through and they'll schedule them with homeowners. And I believe the contractor we use in Randolph is they were a big company. They were a little bitter, but they're a big company out of, I think they might be in New Jersey over by New York City. But they have a whole system set up so people can easily call in and set up appointments or write in. And they'll they'll want a batch of them if they're gonna send people here. And then they also, what they do is if they haven't heard responses from individual homeowners, they'll also have a campaign where they can knock on their doors when they have staff in town here to set up those. And then if there's any lingering, particularly difficult to get a hold of people, then we would come to the village and say, you know, can you send your DPW guys, or do you guys know this person to do the final setup? But there's standards for, you know, properly identifying themselves. They're never supposed to be there if there's not appropriate adults that are there to supervise the work, or supervise if there's someone in the house.
Common sense.
All, you know, all that stuff that you would expect from a professional coming into the home to do the work. Most of the meters, the vast majority of them should be a replacement, so it's a fairly straightforward unscrewing what's there, putting in the other one. We are trying to work with John. There's currently 2 relatively standard sized meters throughout the village, but what we're trying to do is consolidate it in so that the typical residential meter is a single size meter, so that there's more, you know, they only have to stock one size at the shop. So there's the spuds that are the fitting that connects to the meter directly on each side will be switched on some of the houses to make it fit the standard size. Did I answer your question, Eric, or?
Yeah, I mean, there's no paperwork, there's no, legal, like when, National Fuel came and did the gas line last summer, they sent people around for easements and all the paperwork and all that associated before the gas company contractor actually came and did the work. Just wanted to make sure there wasn't any.
Yeah, I don't believe that there's any,
that kind of stuff.
there's not any written easement that's granted. I believe through the water law, the village retains the right to access the meter and service the meter, and so under that right that they're going in the house to replace it. We have a bid item for a cut-in, which would be if there was a totally new meter that had to go in. We don't really anticipate that situation, but it's better to have a bid price for it and have it already in the contract, in all the language. And if we do have to do that on a house, that could be done. So we have that set up, but hopefully, not to lose many bids.
I've noticed the village crew went around marking shut-offs at the sidewalk. Do those have to be used when you put the meter in, or?
Shut-offs may be necessary to be used. Many of the homes may have shut-offs, just quarter turn ball valves located at the meter. It's not guaranteed though at every home, so then the road shut-off would be the second step. And if they can't locate the road shut-off or it doesn't properly function, we have a bid item for a line freeze, which is where they'll use a piece of equipment and they actually freeze a small spot on the copper line so that they can do the work without water running everywhere. It's a temporary thing, and if that's the type of situation where we run into that, then we have the bid item for inserting a valve upstream of the meter, and it's set up so the contractor has to let us know and it has to be approved by the village and the engineer, and then we tell them to go ahead and put in a ball valve there to fix that situation. So we kind of have a plan and a bid item in place for doing that work if the shut-off doesn't work or can't be found.
One more thing, I remember you told me Randolph had some issues with what I'll call damages, basically, where they had to make some repairs due to messing with the line, for lack of better terms, that
Yeah.
you have that kind of stuff covered too.
Yes, what it basically comes down to is when you send a contractor into a home and they're dealing with the plumbing and you have old plumbing, there's a risk that you can create a leak. And so the way we have it handled is that we've delineated an area within a certain distance. If the leak occurs within a certain distance of the meter, within a certain time frame after the meter is installed, the homeowner can come to the village, and if we determine the contractor caused this problem, which there's not going to be much of a defense if there's a leak right there by that meter within 10 days after the meter was installed. It's the contractor's responsibility, at no charge to the village, to fix the what we did do is in Randolph, we ran into an issue, and I spoke with your attorney, and we ran into an issue where they had several leaks occur outside of the foundation wall of the house. So either in the front yard or in one particular bad case in a crawl space outside the main basement wall. And the contractor came back and said they really felt like they should be compensated extra for digging it up to get at it because it was time consuming. So the way we set that up is we put an allowance in the bid. Bid item 16 is an allowance. It's a lump sum of money, and it basically says this money is there so that if there's a leak outside the foundation wall and it has to be dug up, with our approval, the contractor can dig it up. They're responsible to fix the line at their cost, but in order to dig it up, we'll pay them a single lump sum fee of, I believe, I have to look it up, but I believe we decided to set it at $300. The point is we set it at less than what it might cost them to actually dig it up, so it's not an incentive to be wanting to go out and do these. But it's enough that they aren't going to be coming back to the village and saying, look, this is way outside our scope of work. But in Randolph, they hand dug them because the plumber didn't have an excavator in town, so they went out there with shovels and dug them. And talking with Attorney France, at that point, if we're going to start digging in their yard to fix this leak, we would get a signed work release from the homeowner in order to do that work outside of the house like that. So we believe that we have a pretty good plan on how to handle this situation if any leaks occur. In Randolph, almost every meter was a new cut-in, so they were going in the basement, sawing through the plumbing, adjusting stuff, and so it was much more prone towards leak. And here where we're just replacing meters, hopefully it's not as big of a problem.
So then all we need to do then is just pass a resolution then that we're closing the date for the meter bid on 4/28 at 11:45, correct?
Yep, and that'll advertise in full.
An authorization to advertise. And do you want included the award at the May 9th meeting?
No, I don't believe that you'd have to have that in the resolution because the board will want to review the bids, and there's language in the contract documents about how long the bids are good for. If there's some anomaly that we have to work through in trying to follow up on references, you don't want to hang yourself down saying we will
Okay.
address it before that time frame.
I'll make that motion.
Do I have a
Start.
second?
I'll second. That was me, Rose.
Okay, and Jason was the second?
Yep. All in
Thank you.
favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Did you say aye, sir?
Yeah.
Okay, it's unanimous, carried in.
Okay.
And then we'll see you Monday?
Yes, I've been with you for Monday, just Rose's copy, and I'll be in touch with you
Yeah.
tomorrow.
Okay.
And on the last thing, Dan, when, I think I spoke to you on the phone, but this form was when we submitted to the health department,
Okay.
and we submitted the fully signed form and got all the approvals, but they just asked to follow up with you to get the signature, because I was in trouble catching up with you that week. So, this is more for the file,
Okay.
complete the record, so.
So that's April 28th, and that's at 11:45.
Rose, did Ben sent these over here, did those go out to the board?
I know, is that the FAQ about it?
Yeah, this was last month.
Okay, I don't remember it.
Okay.
I-
We can talk about it at the board meeting next week.
Okay,
And then next Monday, we're going over,
I have a bunch of stuff to go over with you guys next Monday, but I want to speak with you about the status of the remaining work on phase 1, give me an update on where we stand on phase 2, and then I just mentioned to Rose, we had put together this facts sheet, and so it's a list of questions. Did the board members see this come by last month? We sent it over to the village last month, but they're questions for customers about the meter replacement and answers for a lot of the common questions. We put this together based on, we've used it on previous projects, but if there's any feedback from the board, if it's something we want to add or anything like that, we can address that. So
okay,
I'll get it to Rose and make sure she has it to you guys before next Monday, so you have some time to read it. It's a quick scan to read, but what we're recommending is that it be made readily available around the village. We'll print some out for Rose to hand out, people come in and post it to your website, maybe put it on a few bulletin boards around town, and it'll just help the residents understand this meter replacement process,
yeah,
answer some of their questions, and give them
a good week.
Thank you guys for your time.
Tell your dad I said hi.
Have a good night.
All right, so we'll go right to the appointments and designations for why we are all here, the organizational meeting. All right, so for Resolution 1, 2016-17, designations. So the following designations are that the clerk undertaking is a $1,000 bond, or excuse me, $100,000 bond. Official newspaper is the Olean Times. Our meeting night remains the same, the second Monday of each month at 7 p.m. Work sessions, if need be, remain on the fourth Monday of each month at 7 p.m. Our next organizational meeting will be April 3rd of 2017 at 7 p.m. Our meeting rules will be the NICOM Handbook for Village Officials 2013. Our procurement policy is 1992 with 2014 and 2015 amendments. Cell phone computer policy is the one that we passed in 2015. Internet use policy is from the Village Handbook of 2004. Fixed assets policy of 1998. Investment policy from 2010. Sexual harassment policy from the Village Handbook of 2004. Vehicle use policy 2015. And the workplace violation or violence prevention was from what we passed in 2015. Do I have a motion for the designations for Resolution 1?
I have some questions. You want a resolution first, or you want questions?
Questions?
The work session night, as you said, as need be, I feel like it's better to, designate the days you need, definitely, like meeting nights, and not the others, and call them as needed.
Okay.
Because when you say you're having a meeting, it's quite often harder to inform people that you aren't having a meeting than in the opposite scenario.
I agree with
Past
that.
experience, it just works better that way. Meeting rules, I don't know why you changed from Robert's Rules of Order last year, but Robert's Rules of Order are used for 99% of the organizations, that official organizations. I don't see a reason to stray from that, in my opinion.
Jay, would you be able to opine regarding
Sure.
NICOM procedures versus Robert rules?
Two very, very interesting things the board may like to know. Robert's Rules was adopted by the British Parliament. It is a very thick rule book that covers a huge number of circumstances and is relatively unwieldy to apply. It's intended to be used to keep order for hundreds of member bodies, and it works very well for those. But every 100+ member body that adopts one also pays a full-time person to sit there and read the rule book and give them advice on it, called a parliamentarian. You can adopt the Robert's Rules if you want, and they will cover any situation you could possibly come across. But I don't know that any of you wants to take it as bedtime reading in order to become an expert in those. They've been adopted by tradition because people are familiar with them as the only set of rules that have been used, because they were one of the first ones that was promulgated. But the rule procedures that are adopted by the board are adoptable by motion of the board and changeable, and you probably want, let me rephrase that, many boards think that it's advisable to have a less complex set of rules that all the members are more comfortable with understanding what they say, even if they do not cover all possible circumstances that a board might see. So NICOM put out, and there are other organizations that have put out, a model set of procedures that's considerably simplified. And generally, I would advise the board that you should adopt the rules that you are comfortable with. If you are comfortable with Robert's Rules, and you know how they would rule on a particular topic and you want to use them, that's fantastic. If not, then I would suggest that you look at other rules of procedure and consider them and adopt one that you're comfortable with.
Is there other things other than NICOM?
Oh yeah, there are hundreds of them that are out there. I mean, it would be a research
My
project.
concern with NICOM is, over the past year, I've called these people, and you might talk to two different people, half the time they won't give you a straightforward answer. They're wishy-washy.
I can't argue with getting or verbal advice from them on particularly legal issues that are difficult. The rules of procedure give relatively straightforward answers on just how meetings are run, how the minutes are kept, and how you solve basic disputes about running a meeting. But on the law itself, I absolutely agree with you that getting a straightforward answer, unless you request it from them in writing and give them all the factual predicates, it's difficult to nail them down on an opinion.
I have Robert's rules right here. It's not, yeah, I mean, there's several examples in here of different things that may come up pertaining to, you know, when someone abstains or silences, I lost my train of thought, but, anyways, I don't know, everyone uses it. I just don't see the need to change from it. My opinion, one person, but I understand the body has the opportunity to make whatever laws they want to govern their meetings, but, it keeps things consistent between the way other municipalities work, and in my mind, it makes sense to stick with it, but.
What do you think, Ward?
What's the majority of people using?
Neighboring
villages,
what's that?
Does anybody know what the neighboring villages and
Some,
municipalities use?
some still use Robert's rules, because we spoke about that in one of our CCMOA meetings. A lot use general procedures, some that they adopted as their own, that they tailored from NICOM. As you can tailor your procedures to be whatever you feel to see fit. And it's just I mean, the NICOM one just covers all your basics. If anything needs to be discussed or any new business or anything like that, it's pretty simple regarding it. That's why I chose Nikon, because I don't know everything about Robert's rules.
I guess I didn't think about the meeting procedures. Cost would have been what I would looked at, probably.
You didn't print the NICOM procedures in the handout this year, but it's like 3 pages long as well, you know, so I'm pretty sure that we don't have that memorized either, you know, so, again, stated my opinion, and,
Mr. Bathroom?
I guess I'm not up on it enough to have an opinion on the rules that you have now. I've always worked under the Robert rules.
Okay, so that's 2 for Robert's rules. Do you want either of you to go to Robert's rules or stay with the current procedures as they are?
I've never worked with Robert's rules. Like I said, you know, working with Nikon, many times I hung up the phone, I was more frustrated when I got off the phone with them when I started the conversation with them. I'd be willing to try something else.
Word?
I really don't have an opinion either way. I don't know anything about NICOM now, but.
Is there,
Is there somebody to call, like, if we were to switch to Robert's rules, is there somebody, like, is there a hotline that, like, NICOM can call somebody? Do they have that as well?
Well, I would say that they
I would imagine
have
that'd be
attorneys,
something,
they know
but
about Robert's rules.
maybe we had a question, is there an organization that you call up to get help?
You know?
I've not heard of one. I don't honestly know.
you can quite often rely on your legislators. I know Paula was like, what's that, at that meeting? You know, she didn't quite understand why it was being changed, but being a municipal service for a long time, she's very familiar with the proceedings. There's people that use it regularly that are very familiar with it, and it's really not. It can get complicated in certain circumstances, but in a general fashion, there's really not a whole lot to it. For that matter, quite to answer your question, there's not an organization to call, but there are plenty of people that have experience in service organizations, whatever, that have dealt with it for many years.
So then we'll change the designation for the organization, or for the work sessions to be designated when they're needed, and change the meeting rules from NICOM to Robert's rules. Anybody else have anything to add to that?
What's the differences, like, I guess this thing I don't understand what the difference is between the two. I guess
The
I'm
main
good
thing with
anything,
Robert's
but-
rules is that you have to have a parliamentarian to truly preside over the meeting. Like typically Congress, Senate, all of them utilize Robert's rules because they're talking huge meetings. You're having over 100 representatives. So they have a parliamentarian there to do they preside or conduct the meeting or make
They
sure?
advise whoever's presiding the meeting.
They advise. Where smaller municipalities typically, because we don't have 100 bodies, maybe your cities do, I don't know, with public being there, typically utilize their own rules of procedures. So, but if everybody's comfortable with Robert's rules, I mean, it's typically, it's the same as what NICOM has listed as the rules of procedures. So, I mean, it's just that we don't have a parliamentarian and to be a true official over it, I don't know it. I would assume it'd be somewhat similar to what we've already done. It would be very out of the reach or out of the realm of what we're accustomed to.
No, I don't have a problem with that. I don't think we're gonna run into any major issues.
And the other thing is Robert's rules really encompasses more than just how a meeting is handled. There's a lot more to it, but you're taking that portion of it to address meeting conduct or meeting, whatever the word is, meeting rules. That's a portion of Robert's rules. Robert's rules really covers a lot of things, so.
Well, we pay to belong to NICOM anyway, don't we?
Yes, you do.
So I would imagine if we're already a member, even if we switch the meeting procedures, we should still be
It
able
would,
to call.
it wouldn't affect, yeah, it wouldn't affect our access to their advice.
Yeah.
Now, that being said, if they have and provide advice on Robert's rules regularly, then they'll have an answer for you. If not, it'll be one of the ones where they say, either we'll get back to you or talk to your village attorney.
So I'll still get the same wishy-washy.
I'd say-
Okay.
This 5.1 through 5.9 is an example. It starts right out in the NICOM manual. This is an example of what can be used. So it's not even that it's, theirs per se. It's
Just
just
an
an
example, yeah.
example of what can be used, so.
Does anybody else have any issues with any of the other designations?
Just on policies, are these specific policies listed for a reason?
Those are ones that we passed, and we added them to the employee handbook, did we not? The ones from 2015?
We give them out at new hire.
Yes. Those are ones that were added in 2015 to the employee handbook, so the cell phone computer policy, vehicle use policy, and workplace violence prevention policy.
Okay, what about the hiring policy that you passed last year?
Yeah, that should be on there.
Okay.
Add the hiring policy.
Now, I have issue with the hiring policy. I don't care if you wanna pull it out of here and we discuss it further later, but it's up to you how we handle it. But you don't hire people because they're your neighbor. You hire people to do a job because they're the best ones to do the job. This hiring policy that you guys passed says you hire Joe Blow, your neighbor, regardless of what his qualifications are and regardless of whether he can do the job or not. And that's just wrong. That's not the way you run a business, that's not the way you run anything that requires.
I think what I thought it was that if there was two candidates with equal qualifications, that
Just
you
the
would,
one that's within the village limits.
right, the village limits, it would be a tiebreaker, I guess. Is what I thought it was, but I guess I don't have it right in front of me to read it.
Hiring policy, resolved to set forth the following as Village of Cattaraugus hiring policy. Any position for which the village is hiring must be first announced. The village must post advertisements, blah, blah. The village must give 2 weeks from when the advertisement is posted. The advertisement must include the last day for filing. Every applicant will have an interview with the full board, which will be conducted in the executive session. The mayor chooses the applicant to be hired, and the board approves or disapproves the applicant. For supervisory positions, the village chooses to promote within, if possible, first, second preference to village applicants, third preference to town of New Albion applicants, and final preference to Cattaraugus County. Non-supervisory goes on and on and on. It doesn't go on and on, actually. Non-supervisory positions, choose to hire from village, second preference town, final preference Cattaraugus County. It says nothing about qualifications anywhere in the hiring policy. If you'd like to pull, I brought it up because it was a policy and I wasn't sure why it wasn't listed with the rest of them. If you want to pull that out, we can discuss it later. It's up to you, but I don't see how you don't take qualifications. From my wording that I just read, it says, again, it doesn't say anything about.
So I mean, the way you wrote it, I mean, that you take into qualifications, of course, firsthand, I mean, that's just business sense. If you don't, I mean, you're just setting up for failure, essentially.
If it's just my interpretation, then I'm fine.
So why don't we put it in the designations then, we'll amend it first.
Yeah, we could change the wording of it,
To include
Include
qualifications.
qualifications, yeah. I mean, it should say that.
to say, basically to show that it's like a tiebreaker of equal qualified candidates.
Okay. Anything else?
Not for me.
I do have one thing, and I don't even know if it goes in here or not, this is something we do on our own. I'm not busting anybody's balls, but like our minutes.
Yeah.
I don't really like the way that we do it. Like, I think personally we should do our minutes, Rose does the minutes and then maybe submit it to us first. And then if, that we can edit it, or if we catch something that's not in there before we send them to Sarah.
Before we get posted.
Just so that, they don't go on the website, before they go.
I mean, in regards to the minutes are the minutes, it's whatever the clerk takes down. It's her recording of the meeting. I mean, if we wanna,
Yeah, but I think what he's talking about is if
there's a mistake
If
or
there's a
something, then we
mistake.
can catch it first, you
Yeah.
know what I mean, and before they go on the website, so.
oh,
Like we could even just via email, I would think.
Yeah.
Say, hey, and then.
is that possible, Rose?
Don't
If you
Yeah,
could-
send them out by email, I just include Sarah at the same time.
Right. Just so if there's something in there, we can catch it, and then like I said,
Before you
we don't
send
have
it
to
to
worry
her.
about going. to the
Okay, well,
website and
there's
checking it.
I have to have the minutes on the website within 2 weeks.
Okay.
Or if there's an
Of the
executive
meeting.
session and a vote, then within 1 week.
Right.
Right.
So
We've
say
been pretty
maybe,
quick about getting them out, I'm saying,
Yeah, it's just,
by the end of the day, just.
I do it all at once so I don't forget
Right,
someone.
no, I know,
That's why I do it the way I do it.
okay.
But if you want me to do it, send them out to the board first, and then if I don't hear anything by maybe,
Right.
give you a week.
I'll
I-
give it
I-
a couple days, like, say,
days, it shouldn't
close the
take that
business,
long.
I don't even know if that needs to be a designated, I just thought something,
Well, that
just
should be
to
something-
set forward going.
Do you want it as one of the designations?
No, I just wasn't sure if it was-
Okay.
that's how we did it or something with the,
I'll just make a note that
Just
it was
as a courtesy.
requested to do it
Right.
that way, okay.
Yep.
And it's to board,
and then just helps you out too, we should be helping you proofread.
to Sarah after proofread.
Alright, so do I have a motion for resolution number 1, 2016 to 2017, with the changes that the work session night, will be designated when having, not automatically set
As
for the fourth.
necessary.
As needed.
Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay.
And then meeting rules will be Robert's rules, and adding and include hiring policy of 2015.
Am I adding that verbiage to use as a tiebreaker to decide between qualified applicants to the hiring policy now, or are you revisiting it later?
I would think we would amend it ourselves, right,
We
first?
can revisit it. We can revisit it. I mean,
They
I
wanna
don't think
revisit
we're gonna hire anyone between
Okay.
now and.
So just adding the hiring policy.
Yep.
Okay,
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Wirt and Eric, thank you.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, it's unanimous, carried and approved. All right, for resolution number 2, 2016 through 17, appointments and salaries. The following salaries and appointments are, mayor, myself, being $2,000 a year, deputy mayor, Wirt Smith, trustees pay, so for all the including, Mr. Botsford, Mr. Crawford, Mr. Pritchard, and Mr. Smith, it'd be $1,500 a year. For committees, police department, who would like to work on the police department with myself?
I'll do it.
Jason? Streets and DPW, who would like to be on that committee with me?
I'll do it.
Boy.
All right, and village properties, myself and who else?
I'll do that.
I'm sorry?
Eric's doing,
Eric, thank
village
you.
properties. Water and sewer, events and parades, insurance and civil defense is all the village board. Youth council,
I'll do it.
senior citizens,
I'll do it, I did last year.
Wanna be our liaison for senior
Sure.
citizens?
Yeah, yeah. We'll do it.
Thanks.
So it's Bob and Wirt for senior citizens?
Oh, I thought Word said I did it last year.
No, that's what I did last year. I'll
I'm
do it again.
sorry, I'm
That's
sorry.
all right, we got, we had 2 last year for
right?
this.
I like the seniors.
See here, parks and trees,
I'll do that.
ambulance,
Can you do that now?
I don't remember, I don't know. Yeah.
library,
Yeah. I am vice president of the board now, so.
are you?
Yeah.
Congrats. And planning and zoning.
I'll do that.
All right, so we have Jason is with myself on the police department.
Do you want somebody else on the youth council? You wanna help with that?
Sure.
You wanna help on the youth
Yeah,
council?
I'll help on the youth council.
Okay. Bob, did you wanna join on any of the other ones? Cause I only have you down for senior citizens, sir.
How about sewer?
We're all on. So.
We're all on sewer.
Okay.
Nice.
Yeah,
Yeah,
then I'm on already.
Yes, we're all on that one.
You can come to the library with me if you want.
All right, that'd be good.
Okay. All right, Rose, so just to confirm, you have police departments, myself and Jason, streets and DPW's myself and Jason. Village properties is Eric and myself. Then youth council, you have Wart and Jason. Senior citizens, you have Wart and Bob.
Mhm.
Parks and trees, you have Eric.
Mhm.
Ambulance, you have Wart.
Mhm.
Library, you have Wart and Bob.
Mhm.
Planning and zoning, you have Eric.
Yes.
Okay. All right, moving along. Clerk is Rose LeQuay. Salary is $28,170 a year. Treasurer is Jean Doucette at $6,700 a year. Deputy clerk, Joy LeQuay, subject to village and town agreement. Attorney, Jay France, Esquire, subject to village and attorney retainer agreement. CEO, Gary Brecker, $3,500 a year. Animal control officer, Mary Danker, $800 a year. Superintendent of Public Works, John Wolf, $56,650 a year. Wastewater treatment operator and laborer are both under the union contract. Grounds helper, that is vacant. If we did have one, it would be $9.27 an hour. DPW summer help is $9 an hour. Per diem clerk, typist, that position is vacant. Part-time officer in charge, Daniel Wasdorp, Wasdorp. Did I say that properly? My apologies. $16.87 an hour. Just a quick note for everybody, I did speak with Mike McCarthy. He is going to be resigning from OIC. due to his health. And he's very upset, obviously, over that, as his health is declining. But, so, at this point in time, though, Mr. Wasdorf is our part-time, this is our OIC. School crossing guard substitutes, $10.75 an hour. Janitor, Mary Jo Piscopo, is $10.93 an hour. Youth Council Program Director, Stacy Corbin, through the youth program. Historian is Mr. Cullen at no pay. Board of Assessment Review, we have Mr. Agnew, whose term ends in 2020. Is that correct, Rose? Okay.
Since you brought it, I was gonna wait till later, but that doesn't jive with the town minutes
What's that?
on the assessment review. The
I was
town
a year,
has-
yeah, I was a year off when I got the renewal sheet from, did it come from the state or either the state or the county senate.
Okay,
I was a year off on every single one of their,
okay,
those term ends,
okay. For the Board of Assessment.
Board of Assessment Review,
Okay.
So it is 2020,
yes.
okay. Stephen Patterson, his term ends in 2018. And Bruce Moody, his term ends in 2019. JPB, we have Mr. Cullen, term ends in 2020. Myra Johnston, term ends in 2017. Joe Paget, term ends in 2018. John Illig, term ends in 2019. And the chairperson is Jan Bobstein, term ends in 2019. The ZBA, we have Heather Gunther, term ends in 2020. Dennis Baker, term ends in, what time this year does Mr. Baker's term end? Joy, or
October.
October. All right, chair is Wayne Stein, term ends in 2017. Andy Roop, term ends in 2018. We still have a vacancy, that's the end of 2019.
The town appointed Heather Gunther, and it was after the meeting was over that I realized that she's a village resident. So the town appointed a village resident. I don't know if,
Well, she's already on the ZBA, right?
she was just appointed by the town
Okay,
at the beginning of the year.
so then can we cross off the vacancy?
Well, we still need another person because it's a 5-person board.
Okay.
So if the village wants to appoint, the town appointed someone, they had a town person resign. They appointed Heather Gunther, who happens to be a village person. And there's still,
So there's still a seat
there's
remaining.
still, Mr. Mark Reed resigned, so
Right.
there's still a village position open.
Okay. And I haven't heard from anybody, does anyone know if there'd be anybody that'd be interested in that position?
Is that why you're here? Chuck, is that why you're here, take the zoning board?
Not at all.
Oh, that's why you came.
I just wanted to see you as a free man, that's all.
I haven't been free in a long time.
Just kidding.
You can't think of anybody that would be interested at this point in time?
We'll just have to keep looking. It
Nobody's.
happens often, where you're trying to find someone.
All right, for our holidays that are recognized, we have 11 holidays observed throughout the year. We have New Year's Day, Good Friday, Memorial Day, Independence Day, Labor Day, Columbus Day, Veterans Day, Thanksgiving Day, day after Thanksgiving, Christmas Eve, and Christmas Day. The clerk, as far as paid time off or vacation, 1 to 2 years is 1 week for 40 hours, 3 to 9 years is 2 weeks, which is 80 hours, 10 to 24 years is 3 weeks, which is 120 hours, and 25 years plus is 4 weeks, which is 160 hours. For the DPW, 6 months to 18 months is 1 week, which is 40 hours, 18 months to 4 years is 2 weeks, which is 80 hours, and 5 years plus is 3 weeks, which is 120 hours. Sick time, 12 sick days per year, which is 96 hours. Health insurance, DPW employee per union contract to May 31st, 2019, which will be effective 6/1/16, which was starting off at 11% contribution, which would be for this year, which we still have to go over on Monday in discuss.
You caught that though?
Yes,
Okay.
I did. Yeah, so you guys pointed that out and that is correct, it doesn't say it correctly, so I emailed, the union rep regarding that, that
On
needs to
the-
be corrected.
The DPW, vacation,
Yes,
they don't get vacation until they're here a year for the contract, right?
This would be the DPW superintendent.
superintendent.
I should have clarified that better, my
Okay, I'm sorry.
apologies.
Yeah, superintendent.
I will fix that. I have something to bring up. In the February meeting, Jason brought up about, pay rate,
Yes,
that he was under the impression that, Tom was being paid 2 pay rates.
okay,
And I thought it sounded weird and I went back. And per the resolution and the civil service certification, they both came through at 1 pay rate. That's all that Tom's been getting is 1 pay rate, since he was hired. So I just wanted to make sure that you knew.
okay.
Cause I thought it was, what, 50 cents more or something, isn't that what I thought, Rose?
That's what the union contract says, that when operating as water operator, you get 50 cents more than laborer.
So,
When is that, did you ever get that put into the contract, with water operator, sewer operator, and all that good stuff?
Uh,
Get that restricted?
That's still what we gotta discuss on Monday's meeting in regards to union negotiations. So then is this pay good or is there an error?
I don't know, I did what the resolution said.
Okay,
I paid him the 1546, which is what was in the resolution.
okay. Alright, so does anybody have any issues with resolution number 2, appointments and salaries?
I do, as far as Mr. Brackert, or
Parker,
Brackert.
okay?
We don't see him enough. I think over the last year, I think we've only seen him like 4 times.
Well, he was here through the beginning until the weather got bad, and I know in the past couple months he's been down, pretty bad with the flu. He was pretty sick. Now he's starting to get better and,
Yeah, he was in today, working with, somebody on South Street.
I've been talking to other towns, because I had this thought in my head over the last couple weeks. Like, Leon shares the same as, I believe it's Otto, and possibly maybe, I can't remember for sure, but anyway, what I'm thinking is if we could get on board with somebody that has other municipalities, 2 or 3, when it comes to that person's training, now instead of, say that person's training costs $400 to us, now it's spread across the board to 3 or 4 municipalities. So we're, in essence, saving money.
well, Mr. Brecker was with, what, Town of Napoli, Village of Gowanda, he's with multiple municipalities. So it's not just us for their annual training, if that's what you're getting towards.
So are they willing to share in the,
As far as I know, I believe that's a cost that he pays for as his training, correct? The village isn't accountable for that.
He can submit, it's an expense for his position.
Well, then I'd say that would need to be spread out through all the municipalities.
Yeah, I
He
would
does
think
it
if
through-
he's an official for multiple municipalities, they would all share in that expense.
Right,
He wouldn't just pick one to,
submit it to.
Yeah.
I mean, Gary's been very cautious, I mean, heck, he wouldn't, did he even ever cash that, or did he even submit a voucher for when he
I don't
Took that
believe we've
stuff
gotten a
took the
voucher
asbestos all
for
the way
this.
up to the testing side and all that, and he paid it on his credit card and said, no, you don't have to pay me back. We're like, no, you have to, you can't just.
I don't think we've gotten it, but I'll write myself a note to check with him.
I mean, it's just my opinion, so.
Here's my opinion on Mr. Brexit. There was a demolition permit in place at this time last year for the place on the corner of Rumsey Street and 353. A year later, and the excavator showed up July timeframe, sat there until end of August, maybe Labor Day. And a year later, that place is still standing. If that place was anywhere else in this village, people would be raising holy hell. And I just don't understand why we can't get that place torn down. There was a permit in place to have it done. And a year later,
Didn't he come in here and ask for, or tell us that they had to come in, somebody had to come in for another demolition permit? Is this the place he's talking about?
I thought that was getting resolved, that it would be demolished, like, once the weather
I'd
broke.
have to look at what the date is. I can ask him to give you guys a status next week at the meeting.
If you would be.
Sure.
Thank you.
that's what I was told last year at this time when I came to complain about it. It wasn't April, it was probably May maybe, possibly June. And then the excavator showed up, so I thought, great. And the excavator sat there, and sat there, and sat there, and eventually the excavator left. And the house is still there, barely. I know a lot of people have their opinions about Frank. When I increased the pay last year from 3,000 to 3,500, one, it hadn't been increased in quite a while, but two, Frank was gonna have office hours. Frank was gonna be here at least 2 hours every week, just like the assessor is, so that he was always accessible at that period. And when these guys do different things, you know, they aren't always available, unless you tie them down to a certain period. It has worked really well with Mary and the assessment. And I think we've actually had that for quite a while. I might even go, no, I think Mary did start that. But anyway, regardless, you know, that was my intent. Okay? And I know some people are frustrated with Frank. Some people really like Frank. He did what he said he was gonna do, got things done, and my opinion is Frank does his job. That's why some people don't like Frank, is because Frank does his job. He makes, his job is to make sure he doesn't put the town or the village in position where they're liable for approving something that shouldn't be approved.
I don't feel
That's his
that Gary
job.
does the same either.
What's that?
I don't feel that Gary puts the village in harm's way. I think he's very
There
cautious
is
and works with residents.
there is a structure that has been sitting for 12 months untouched that is slowly falling down upon itself. There are deer prints in that place. There are footprints in that place. We know that. That's well known. It's been talked about in several meetings. So a kid walks in there to do whatever, and the house finally collapses. The chimney's ready. I can't believe it hasn't fallen yet. We've put ourselves in that position because we continue to not address it. It was addressed at this time last year, and there's a time period that has to be allowed for that demolition permit. And the clock was ticking. Okay? If the person doesn't take care of it by the end of that period, maybe you give them a little grace period, but eventually you say, here, I gave you the permit, you applied for it, you said you were gonna do it, you haven't done it. Now you get to go to see the judge and let the judge decide. Maybe the judge can, you know, convince you to do what you're supposed to do. You know, so.
Well, there's also issues I'm sure Gary was in contact with whoever the homeowner is and working to get it resolved. I mean, I have every bit of faith in Gary doing the best job that he can and protecting the village and doing a good job.